Hey, welcome, kids, dreamers, and jammers. Thank you so much for joining us for this special episode of Park Streamers Hangout today. We are excited because we have a couple of really special guests for you. And then afterwards, we'll be covering some more theme park news just for you guys. But before we get started with our special guest tonight, let's go ahead and go into the chat and say hi to everyone first. So who do we have here tonight?
We have got Daryl Chin is here with us. Reply by mail, Marisol Valdez, Mike, Mattercam Matt, Mitch's Adventures, Sean's Hobby Trains, Going Shogi, hello. Is it Sin? S-I-N? We'll say Gypsy Sparrow. And we've got Cat747, Jackie, and Tom F.
We got Murder Beaver and Kelly DiMaggio. Got John Way. Adventures with Roto Commish. Welcome in. Who else we got? Gosh, we got a bunch of you guys in here. Mm-hmm. Good to see all of you. And we got Most Wanted. We got Good Vibes. Welcome in. Karen Owen. Good to see you.
All right.
And we've got a 5 Park Streamers Hangout memberships gifted by Go and Shogi. So thank you, Go and Shogi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Go and Shogi. That's so nice of you. Do we know who those went out to?
Let's see. They went out to Aubrey Harris. Welcome in. Jungo Fett. Good to see you. Let's see. Oh, it jumped on me. Sorry. Ross and Found, Janine, Stacy Rogers, and Ronnie. Snag those memberships. Congratulations.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to our new members, and thank you so much, Go and Shogi. That was really, really nice. I appreciate that. Very, very cool. All right, before we get started with the bios for our special guest tonight, Cordy, can you want to tell everyone where we can find you?
Yes, of course. Cordy in California. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok.
All right, awesome. And Theme Park Casual, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on YouTube, X, and Instagram, all of them at Theme Park Casual.
Very cool. And everyone, you can find me at Barry Place 28 on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our guest tonight. So Danny, can you go ahead and read the bio for Don Hahn, please?
I sure can. Let's see. We got Don Hahn has lived the past, present, and future of the Walt Disney Company in a uniquely immersive way. A Southern California native with early passions for both music and animation, Don began his Disney career in 1976 with a summer job at the studios, learning directly from legendary animators like Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. His early work included animation roles on classics like Pete's Dragon, The Fox and the Hound, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, setting the stage for a storied career in filmmaking. As a producer, Don helped define the Disney Renaissance, leading projects such as Beauty and the Beast, the first animated film nominated for a Best Picture Oscar, and The Lion King, one of the most successful films in Disney history. His work expanded into documentaries like Waking Sleeping Beauty and Howard, along with producing roles on live-action hits like Maleficent and Beauty and the Beast 2017. With a legacy that spans animation, live action, and documentary filmmaking, Don has earned numerous awards, including being named a Disney Legend in 2022, and remains a celebrated storyteller and collaborator in the Disney legacy. Very impressive.
That's awesome. Very impressive. And Cordy, can you tell us a little bit about Chris Merritt, please?
Of course. So, Southern California native Christopher Merritt has over 20 years of ride and show design experience, creating theme park attractions and environments around the world. He has served as an art director and production designer at theme parks located in California, Florida, Tokyo, Singapore, and Shanghai. In 2010, Merritt's Knott's Berry Farm Pictorial History, Knott's Preserved, was published to critical acclaim. He is the author of Pacific Ocean Park, The Rise and Fall of Los Angeles Space Age Nautical Pleasure Pier, and Mark Davis in His Own Words, a coffee table book co-authored with Pete Docter. After 8 years as a senior production designer at Walt Disney Imagineering, He now serves as the creative director at THG Creative. Chris and co-author Don Hahn's newest book, The Happiest Place on Earth, is set to release in July 2025 this year.
Awesome.
Also
And
impressive.
that's why it is
Yeah.
impressive. And that's why we're here tonight. We're going to be talking about their brand new book, The Happiest Place on Earth, which is releasing on July 15th of this year. And if you haven't checked it out, we'll be throwing the link to that book in the chat so you guys can pre-order your book if you want to from Amazon or wherever you'd like to. But it's going to be an amazing book. So let's go ahead and bring them on. And everyone, please welcome our guests, Don Hahn and Christopher Merritt.
Hello,
gentlemen.
Hi.
Greetings, and thank you again for joining us.
Yeah. And Cordy, I got to correct you. Actually, I'm a senior art director at THG, although I am a creative director. Sometimes I wear a lot of different hats, but just to be clear, because I think some of my colleagues at THG might be watching tonight. So
They're like, how'd you get promoted to creative
so I
director?
don't get a call from HR tomorrow. Yes.
Very, very good. Well, thank you so much. It's so great to have a Disney legend and former Imagineer, and obviously Chris, it's great to have you back on the show. So thank you for being here tonight. So we're just going to go through and ask a few questions, and I'm going to go ahead and start it off because I've actually read the book twice now, all the way through.
Wow, that's more than us.
You're one of the few.
Well, I'd hoped you'd read the book at least once since you guys wrote it.
I'm being bad.
Yeah. But in your book, one of the things I really enjoyed, and Chris and I have talked about this as well, is that you highlight key collaborators like like Bud Washow, Ruth Shellhorn, etc. These are individuals who played like crucial roles in the creation of Disneyland. Like, how did you come across their stories, and what specific contributions did they make to the development of the park?
It was important to put those people in. I mean, you guys know as well as anybody that, animation and theme park building and all the things at Disney are collaborative, intensely collaborative. And yes, you need directors and storytellers and leaders and followers. But what was important to Chris and I was to try to shine a light on the people who seldom get mentioned and in some cases have never been mentioned. And Chris has such a depth of knowledge of these people by virtue of having worked in the theme park world for so long. And he fakes it if he doesn't know. And I'm like genuinely a curious guy. And so I would always say, well, who did this? And like, who put this train together? And so between Chris and our colleagues at the Disney Archives and Imagineering, we were able to kind of shine a light on all those people.
Yeah, I think it's really important because, one of the things for me, I thought, okay, we're going to do a book on Disneyland and Disneyland's history, and we're going to actually focus it on the first 15 years when Walt was really with us and really, directing the park, which was something that was important to us. And I think Don is what really sold the project to Disney Publishing, celebrating the years that Walt. And then, for me, I obviously, because I did this book with Pete on Mark Davis, I knew a lot about that, but I didn't know a lot about especially the earlier years of the park. And so as part of that, I felt like, let's, of course, we're going to talk about the usual suspects, right? Mark Davis, Claude Coates, Sam McKim, Herb Ryman, Harriet Burns, Fred Jerger, all these kind of known names. But there's, as Don said, just like in animation, theme park design is a collaborative medium. It takes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to make these things actually work and happen. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot of people whose stories have not been told, and a lot of people who we feel that they should be well known, and one that really strikes me in particular is Don and I are big fans of, maybe because Don lives in Pasadena, but Pasadena native Ruth Shellhorn, who was a landscape architect. And really she comes in about like 4 months before the park is open, and she basically designs everything that the Evans brothers do not. And, they're consumed with Adventureland and the Jungle Cruise. And so she's driving, and don't forget, at this time, there's no freeways, right? You have to take surface streets from Pasadena down to Anaheim. And she's driving down surface streets, which was like, God knows how long that takes, and dressed in full business attire, probably the only woman on the job site, right? With all these guys. And then she's going home at night and doing the most gorgeous, beautiful, I mean, they're in the book. You saw, these master planning, layouts of the landscaping. And she talks Walt out of, Walt had a bandstand on Main Street where the flagpole is today. And it really blocks the view, that really wonderful long view of the castle you get when you come down Main Street, which was a wonderful thing that Walt really wanted. And she talks him into moving it and putting it, adjacent to the side of the castle, where Carnation Gardens ends up eventually. So I think she should be a Disney legend. She should have her own window, right? I mean, that's kind of amazing. So for lots of other people too. I mean, Renee Conley was important to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a name I never heard before. And she was a costume designer in Hollywood and worked on so many movies for Fox and different studios, designed the costumes and won an Oscar for her costumes on Cleopatra, worked with Edith Head, that kind of thing. And Walt called her up and she designed all the costumes for Disneyland. And we have all her drawings in the book. Like, we had never seen those before. And we thought, where have these been? And they were never released. There was, I think, one terrific article by Kevin Kern in the Disney articles about her, but in the Disney archives about her. But I just thought, wow, this is the kind of story that this book needs to be. Is who are these unsung heroes? Yeah, there it is, unsung heroes that left behind this legacy that we all enjoy every day. And here they are, and they were all storytellers. They were all from the movie industry. There's very few architects or people from a kind of legitimate building industry. Disneyland was designed as a backlot almost, and so Walt really wanted to create that ability to tell a story and transport the audience to wherever you want to go, to Frontierland or Fantasyland or whatever. So somebody like Renee Connolly is crucial, I think, to that experience, and a kind of a hero to Chris and I.
Yep, 100%.
Awesome.
Lots of other people. I mean, there's a fellow I still want to know a lot more about, and thank God for Tom Morris. There's the art director of opening year Tomorrowland is a fellow named Gabe Scognamillo, which is like the best name ever. And he
That's why I didn't say, because I couldn't pronounce it.
he looks like a Scognamillo. He's like, he's got pencil thin mustache, slicked back hair, probably with Brillo cream, and just like Fred Mertz, he wears his pants like just right below his breasts, right? Like,
Yeah.
And Don and I did a thing for D23, and as part of it, we shot a little adjunct thing at Bob Gurr's house, and Bob is like one of the last men standing who was opening year, and asking, I'm like Bob, tell me about, Gabe Scognamillo. He's like, oh, he was a ladies' man, and he, and so he was always going, it's like, so it's funny to you don't know anything about some of these people, right? It's just like a name. So it's some of these secondary and tertiary and even quaternary characters that you rarely hear about that we're really fascinated with. So we wanted to elevate them. And then I just think, Don, don't you think we're trying to tell the story not the same way? There's hundreds of books on Disneyland, and we didn't want to just kind of repeat what's out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, to quote Tony Baxter when we started this project, he said, "Why do we need another book on Disneyland?" And so a lot of it, we had Tony's voice in the back of our head, just saying, "Well, okay, the only reason you do need that is if we show you things you haven't seen before, and tell you stories you haven't heard before, and introduce you to people you haven't met before." And that was our guiding light for the last, probably 5 years that we've been chipping away on this.
Yeah. And also just trying to find things that you may have not seen before, or at the very least have been rarely shown. So, of course, there's a few examples of what I would consider the usual suspects, the Herb Ryman map. But there's lots in there that people have not seen before or rarely seen before, and lots of odd things that they planned and didn't do. And so we just tried to elevate that. I mean, the biggest one for me was the discovery of there was an attraction that I'd heard about for years that Claude Coates supposedly did, and I wasn't quite sure if they'd actually done anything or not. And then we found a memo at the archives showing that they'd worked on it. It was called Uranium Hunt, of all things.
Oh.
And it was planned for Tomorrowland, opening year Tomorrowland. And John Hench had done a little sketch, but then Claude Coates took it further. And I just thought, we're never going to see like the actual designs of this thing. It was one of these things they probably worked on for a month or something before either Walt lost interest. So Don and I were at Archives, and one day one of the people helping us there, I mean, Becky Klein's Archives is absolutely gobsmackingly amazing, by the way. But one of the people helping said, "Hey, we found a box, a cardboard box that just says Disneyland art written like in Sharpie on the side. Do you want us to bring it in?" And we're like, "Yes, please, bring that in." And this box has, I can't even tell you how much amazing artwork is in this box, but down at the bottom, folded up, were about 4 or 5 different beautiful renderings of this uranium hunt. And just like, I mean, it's like I never thought I'd see it. And Claude Coates has it all worked out. And part of it was, you walked through all this rock work, and you were going to walk through and actually you were going to be handed Geiger counters. And there were embedded radioactive pieces of uranium in the rock work. You were going to measure it as you went through, and at the end, they were going to give you a radioactive piece of uranium as a souvenir on your way out.
That's wild.
Right? There's other amazing things in the book too, but things like that, we were trying to get some things out there that people had not seen before. So that was really exciting for us.
Yeah, and you can see on the screen here, that's the actual picture that Chris is talking about for the Tomorrowland uranium hunt. I know, when I saw that, I was like, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had never even heard of that before, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I'd heard it mentioned, and I kind of was like, did that really happen or not? And then, Alan Coates, Claude's son, put a book out on him and found like kind of a napkin doodle sketch in his book. And I thought, well, maybe that's all we're ever going to see. And then we found, or Archives found this. It was incredible. Yeah.
It's incredible and dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Courtney, you want to ask the next question?
Yes. I know we started to get into this. I think I heard a little bit of this, but how long did the research process take, and what did it involve?
Wow. Chris and I had lunch one time, as we did from time to time, but we didn't even know each other that well. But I'm kind of curious and have always loved Imagineering. And I had Chris's Knott's Berry Farm book, which is, if you don't have it, it's like a must-have background story on Knott's Berry Farm and Walter and Cordelia Knott, who we're friends with Walt and Walt Disney. Anyway, we had lunch, and Chris was talking about, well, maybe thinking about doing something maybe on Fantasyland. Maybe I can do a series of books. So there's a book on each land, and kind of talk about the process and really highlight in several volumes the larger story of Disneyland. And I tend to be a simplifier, and so I said, well, why just do Fantasyland? Why don't you just do the whole park? And we never really thought about the 70th anniversary coming up, because this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer.
This is 2020.
Yeah, exactly. And COVID was coming up and all that kind of stuff. So it turned, with the help of the incredible Wendy Lefcon at Disney Editions, who really understands and wants to share Disney history with all of her readers as a publisher. Wendy said, "Oh, I get this. Especially we can do this in the context of Walt Disney's Disneyland. What did he build? What were his thoughts? Why did he make the choices he made? Who were the people he worked with?" That suddenly became something pretty interesting to me, because oddly, I grew up in animation, and so many of the people that worked on Disneyland were from animation. They didn't know they couldn't build a theme park because they never tried before. So the Claude Coates of the world, or the Ken Andersons, said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do this." And that story was really fascinating to me. So between Chris and his initial ideas and kind of expanding that into the whole park, wanting to focus on Walt, and then Wendy's participation to bring in Disney Editions, and eventually the 70th anniversary, and Bob Iger writing the foreword of the book, it became a really great honor, I think, for both of us to be able to really try to put something out there that you hadn't seen before, and tell a story that was going to be unique for people to want to read. Books are pricey. We all have a ton of Disney books, so it's like, what makes this different? And that's really what we fought and worked hard for, with a lot of support from a lot of people, to try to put into the book.
Yeah, I think it was really nice because making it part of the 70th anniversary meant we got a bigger book with more pages and larger size format, which is really wonderful, because some of this concept art, you really do, if you're like me, I want to get in there with a magnifying glass and really kind of study, because I want to get my brain in, like, these designers in the 1950s, what was their thought process. And like, I, again, sorry to keep referencing the Mark Davis book, but like on the Mark Davis book, you'll see like the end pages, are all his rough sketches. And Pete and I felt very strongly like we needed to include his rough sketches, because it gets you into his thought process about how he's working out the design. So for me as a theme park designer, I'm constantly thinking, what should I be thinking of? What should I be planning for? What should I be thinking 5 steps ahead of as I draw this thing or design this thing? And so for me, because I love history too, and I'm a theme park history fan, kind of getting in there with like a magnifying glass and looking at the small things. Well, even on this like Sam McKim map behind me, like I'll stare at it for hours, looking at all the little design choices that Sam made. They're really, really wonderful. So, that was great to get a bigger book so that people could actually like get in and really like get into the meat of the design there, if that makes sense. It's an amuse-bouche of design.
I think we just lost Don, unfortunately.
We might have lost Don.
Yeah, no, and I was telling Bob and Danny, like, just as I was reading the book, like it got my mind going, like my imagination, and like just thinking, wow, okay, this is just trying to think of, like you said, what were they thinking? What was behind all of this? So,
well, right. And even I sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Cordy, but like you made me think of like Ruth Shellhorn, who we mentioned before. One of the most amazing things is, her diaries exist. So that's wonderful, because not only do you have photos of her in action with Walt and the team at WED, and you've got her drawings that are saved, you've actually got her thoughts at the time, so her diaries. Don, we're talking about Ruth Shellhorn's diaries. And
I've been listening the whole time.
Okay. So, I mean, for me, like, that's like a window into her mind of what she was thinking at the time. That's fascinating to me, because she's not around for us to ask anymore. Right.
Yeah.
As an amusing sidebar, I am talking to you on my computer, which is being powered by my iPhone, which is being powered by this Anchor power source, because I'm speaking to you from my home, which had a large tree fall on it during the firestorms of January 7th. So I don't have electricity. So, which is actually a nice benefit. But anyway, so if I ever drop out, it's because my fantastic backup source here is running out of high-speed internet. And if I have to leave, I love you all.
All right, thank you.
What you don't see off screen is there's a team of hamsters.
I know, and I have to stop once in a while to feed them, and it's embarrassing.
Well, sorry to hear about your house too.
Thanks. We're doing good. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. I have a question. What were some of the most surprising or unexpected discoveries that you guys found while putting the book together?
Wow. One of the things I really loved was finding out how early Walt thought about Disneyland. There's some signals that he was thinking about in the 30s, but it really came up in the 40s, post-war era, when Southern California was booming. And it came up largely because of television. There was this is too much information, but there was a Supreme Court decision that where studios could not own their theaters anymore. So they forced the monopoly of studios like Warner's and Paramount and Fox to break up those monopolies. At the very same time, television was coming in, and that's really what caused Disneyland to be built. So all of Disneyland and its financing was based on television, because Walt Disney said, I'll do television programming from Disneyland, about Disneyland. And ABC, which was the third place network, was so desperate for programming that they said, okay, we'll give you a bunch of money. You can build your park, whatever the heck that is, but we need your programming. We want your Disney library. And so Walt said yes, and it became an absolutely huge hit. And Walt was into television light years ahead of anybody else because of it. And it was really ABC Television that funded, in part, Disneyland, along with Western Publishing, that had a long relationship with Disney. And of course, the Disney company put stuff in, but they were late. The Walt Disney Productions and the board of directors and the publicly held Walt Disney Company were a little late to the game, to be honest. And Walt actually found to move as quickly and nimbly as he had to in television. He actually started a new company, which didn't go over too well with Walt Disney Productions at the time. And he started up, his company in the back lot and just said, I'm going to do television and I'm going to work on this Disneyland thing. and he funded it himself, and he paid for the employees. So when he borrowed Ken Anderson to do something, he was shelling out his own money for those people to work on Disneyland. Eventually, that company was turned into Walt Disney Imagineering, or WED as it was temporarily for a few decades. And but that whole story about the brazen kind of courage of Walt Disney to say, I'm in middle age, I'm a little bored, there's a huge opportunity here in television and outdoor entertainment. You guys at the company are moving a little slow. I'm going to start my own company. We're going to go do this. I mean, oh my God, can you imagine that happening today? I can't. So that part of the story is astonishing, of how it came and got kind of up and running at the beginning, and how much television played a part of it.
This is one of the wonderful things I loved about working with Don on this too, is because I tend to go straight to the design of the attractions. That's like my jam, I guess. and Don is so knowledgeable about the history of film in general, and just the whole idea that, yeah, I knew television was coming in and I knew it was a big thing. I did not know that basically you, as an actor in that time, if you appeared on TV, you could be blacklisted by the studios for appearing on television. It was considered that much of a threat to their bottom line. So that's kind of interesting to me. And to Don's point, just how audacious it was of Walt. He had, shareholders he was beholden to. This is a publicly traded corporation. And so, to basically draw a line in the sand and say, well, guess what? I'm doing this. Sorry. And I'm going to just pay for it out of my own pocket or figure it out. That's amazing. And, just the idea that I still think, a lot of people aren't aware, the first, 7-8 years or so, WED is located at the Walt Disney Studios. It's not in Glendale. They're eventually forced to get off the studio lot and go down the street. But they're designing all these things there. So there's a wonderful photo in the book of, I am so sorry. I keep trying to turn off my notifications on texts, and I keep
fan
turning
mail. It's fan mail
it turns itself back on, and I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry.
You're so popular, Chris.
Yes.
Anyway, Bob, stop texting Chris. He's right here.
So anyhow,
with
yes.
every bell, an angel gets her wings.
Hard quitting out of that app doesn't help.
Very Disney.
But for me, it's amazing to think of just kind of the audacity of that, to say, I'm doing this, I'm going forward. And also just thinking what a different world it was in the early 1950s. I know that's kind of like stating the obvious, but one of my favorite films of all time is LA Confidential. And just partially because it shows the city that Don and I know so well and grew up in, and you guys too, I assume, if you live around here. It's almost a different world completely. And to think that's the world that my grandparents thrived in. And it's such a smaller world in so many ways. Just the concept of not being able to take freeways everywhere, but you have to take a lot of surface streets to get somewhere. So anyway.
LA is a big part of this story. It's a great city for those of you who are listening from outside of LA. And the first freeway in the world was in LA, and LA was, if you wanted to start over in your life, you came to LA. It's a city of outsiders. There was nothing here. And so Walt Disney even, comes out here when he's bankrupt back in Kansas City, and he's on fire when he gets to LA. His brother's out here in the veterans home with tuberculosis, and he pulls Roy out of the veterans home, and the two of them start business. But LA is the place more than anything that really sets his life on fire. And it's the film industry is young, the aerospace industry. It was the #1 oil producing town in America at the time. And then after the war, everybody was coming home from the war into Southern California, and suburbs were just growing, and orange groves were coming down, and houses were going up. And that's where Walt, I think, who was an opportunist in the best sense of the word, saw these young families growing up and said, I can provide them with entertainment on television. I can provide them with entertainment in this new way down in Anaheim. And he jumped on it. It would be like, today jumping on something like social media or AI or something like that, a new technology that nobody else quite understands. He's in it deep.
So I was going to ask this next question, but you guys kind of already answered that. And that was, what's one of the most fascinating stories in the book. And obviously you talked about the Tomorrowland uranium hut, Chris, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to go to my next question, which is in your book, there's a fascinating section called Tomorrow Finally Arrives in 1959. And it basically describes how June 14th, 1959, in many ways marked the grand reopening of Disneyland. So for our viewers who might not be familiar with that part of the history, can you explain why this moment was so significant for the park and why it's considered such a pivotal turning point in Disneyland's story?
Well, when the park opened, it was a work in progress. In some cases more than others. I think Main Street was pretty much together, and many of the lands, but Tomorrowland was, held together with chewing gum and aluminum, and so a lot of the areas.
And chewing gum worked a lot better than the aluminum, by the way.
It certainly did.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the attractions that we know and love today, like the canal boats, were a trench with some weeds and nothing much else. So I think what Walt had always said, the quote that we're all familiar with is there's always room for imagination to grow the park. Well, he took those 4 years between 55 and 59 and just fleshed it all out and pulled his best people, the Claude Coateses and Ken Andersons and so many people into the park to just turn on the storytelling. That's when the Matterhorn came in, and he was so brilliant with saying, we're doing this movie, Third Man on the Mountain. Let's build the Matterhorn because that'll promote the movie. He was great with doing things that were cross-promotional with films, but also not afraid to do something like the submarine ride, which there was no submarine film really to be highlighted. But he thought, how cool would it be to have you actually take a boat ride, not a glass bottom boat ride, which was suggested to me at the time, but actually put you underwater and have you design a ride that's completely underwater. And there you are with bubbles and everything to be able to have that experience. So 59 was the monorail, it was the submarines, it was the Matterhorn, so many other things that just matured the park to a place where it was not just an experiment in urban design or entertainment design. A lot of those things became experiments in transportation of the future or ride systems of the future, like the Matterhorn, which Chris can talk about. That's a ride system that was a first of its kind that now is used all over the world. So that 59 era and that time was an unbelievable jump ahead for Walt Disney.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It is really like a second opening of Disneyland. And again, just the word audacious comes to mind. We're not going to open with one big new attraction. We're going to open with 3 big unproven attractions: the Matterhorn, the submarine voyage, and the monorail. And there's amazing stories about all of them. But I mean, for me, I love Submarine Voyage so much because it's crazy pants. It's a maintenance nightmare to do that with real water. It just is. Mm-hmm. But in 1959, what are you going to do, right? I'm still flabbergasted they pulled it off to the extent that they did, and it's still operating today. I don't know, it's fascinating to me. I mean, Bob Gurr, designs the track layout and all the rails for the Matterhorn, by hand. He's drafting by hand. That's the other thing that really amazes me in a world of using CAD for design drawings, computer-aided design, where everything is kind of hard lines and 90-degree angles. There is a level of artistry that people like Bob Gurr, who was trained at Art Center to do, automotive design, or people who were motion picture set designers, people like Marvin Davis or Sam McKim, and lots and other draftsmen who would do these lovingly detailed, perfectly done to scale in plan, section, and elevation, the most gorgeous pencil drawings you've ever seen in your life. And it all worked. It all fit together. So to be able to design that at that level and make it all work, I don't know, it blows my mind, because with all the computer tech we have today, it's so hard to do. I can't imagine doing it in the 50s.
Yeah, no cell phones, no. Right. I mean, just it's landlines, it's all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they were able to. Walt brings in Richard Nixon, the Vice President of the United States, and has him and his family there all day long, and jumps in the monorail and says, "Hey," yells to Bob Gurr, "Hey, let's take him for a spin." And
Yep.
so here's Bob Gurr pulling away from the station with the Vice President of the United States in the monorail with Secret Service jogging behind him. It's that kind of different world that we were living in at the time.
Yeah, one of the things I really enjoyed too reading about was the fact that going back to Bob Gurr and the submarines, the city of Anaheim didn't allow for anything to be underwater, any sort of transportation vehicle, and so he designed it so that people could go down a spiral staircase and still be underwater, but have bubbles come up to make it look like you're going, down into the depths of the ocean. So when you guys put stuff like that into the book, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome! I love
the end shot of that is it makes it the world's slowest loading attraction of all time. But
true,
but it was
that
a
is
creative
true.
solve, right? Yeah, I mean, to this day, it's a slow load, but yeah.
But
So
along
great
with that,
story.
Bob Gurr brings you the Doom-mobiles and things that are, again, breakthroughs in the art of storytelling and show design in a way that is unbelievable.
One thing that strikes me again, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep referencing the Mark Davis book, but one of the things Mark told me in the 90s was, all these interviews I did with him, he said to me one time, I think he was talking about the Jungle Cruise design he did in the 60s, and he said, I was learning what I could and couldn't do, and Walt was learning what he could and couldn't do, and we were learning from each other what we could and couldn't do. So it was like this real-time petri dish of theme park design, right? Like where they're experimenting, they're trying things that, and of course there's a history and a lineage going back to really Coney Island at the turn of the century with some of these things, but fully realized, fully themed environments to the level that Walt Disney brought it to had not been done ahead of time. So, I mean, the idea that they didn't know what they were doing, they were just kind of, I don't want to say stabs in the dark, they were educated stabs in the dark for sure. But in a lot of cases, they didn't know what would work or didn't work. And it was just kind of like run it up the flagpole and see who salutes sort of a situation.
And the attention to detail, and we're going on here, guys. So thanks for your patience with us, because we'll be here till midnight or until my battery runs out. But Main Street basically could have been a shopping mall, and yet Walt says no. Main Street is time travel. We have to take the audience out of the parking lot, through the ticket gates into another era. And that era is told with brick and with music that you hear and smells that you smell. And every licensee, even though he got outside vendors to run those stores, had to be in business for 50 years or more, because 50 years earlier would have been the Victorian period. So nobody that occupied a store on Main Street was anachronistic. They had to be either a piano vendor or an underwear store or whatever that had been around for 50 years, so you could believe that they were actually there in Victorian America. And so it's a very idealized Victorian Main Street, but even his thinking about storytelling and what the authenticity of those places, each shop and the look of each shop on the outside and inside, and the way people dressed, and things like the pharmacy that had period pharmaceutical, the scales and things inside. It was a museum of time travel. And so if you were there in that era, you could walk in and feel like you were truly in 1890 America, in this idealized, probably America that never was, but a movie set kind of America. The same with Frontierland. You could go there and walk into a fort and feel like you were there with Davy Crockett. And nothing in the stores and nothing was there to betray that. You really felt like every costume, every Pendleton shirt, everything that you could get was authentic. And that kind of attention to detail, I think, really separated Disney from the rest.
I agree.
I just lost my page here. I can go after Danny if you want to go.
Sure.
Sorry.
With so many stories to choose from, how did you guys narrow it down? I mean, I know you guys said you wanted to include all these untold stories, some of these unique stories, but I mean, obviously there was probably way too many to include in a single volume. So how did you narrow it down? And was there one that you were especially passionate about?
Yeah, tell them about the document.
Couldn't make the cut.
Well, the initial document was a research document, and it was put together almost entirely by Chris. And it was quite remarkable. It really needs to be a book of its own someday, because it was all first-person quotes of people who had worked on the parks with Walt Disney. So it was very authentic, and it was over 500,000 words easily.
It's crazy.
And it was the well from which I drew when I started writing the prose of the book. And then, we'd go back and forth on the writing, but I think that original document was overwhelming. And so I started writing the book and pulling out things of the criteria that it had to be about Walt. It had to be about collaborators we had never heard of before, and all those things we've talked about already. And that kind of guided us a little bit. And we had the same problem when it came to imagery. We collected not only things from very generously from the Disney archives and from Mike Jusko at the Imagineering archives, but also from the private donors, people who had slides in their collections that hadn't been seen in 70 years, said, oh, my grandpa has a picture of this. Would you like to use it? And so that became fantastic and overwhelming at the same time. So, going back to Wendy Lefcon and our book designer, Winnie Ho, and our researcher, Amy Rogers, we had a great team on this movie that helped us kind of focus in on what was important. Are there ancillary stories that we lost? Oh my God, yeah. We could have done a whole page on the horses of Disneyland, which should be our next book. On the people that collected them and put them together and designed the tack for them and scaled the horses and the carriages so that they were the right size. And so yes, a million stories.
It was really hard for me because I just, there were so many, things that just got cut or lost along the way, or even things like, I had a little bit in there with Bud Hurlbut from Knott's Berry Farm, and Walt struck up a friendship with him. So for those of you who don't know, in the late 40s, early 50s, as Walt is starting to get more and more serious about this, he starts trying to teach himself about the amusement park business. And there was a thriving, actually like a friendly rivalry of all these kiddie parks in Los Angeles, in the 40s and 50s. And so, the famous one is Beverly Park, which is where the Beverly Center is now. But Bud Hurlbut, who designed the log ride and the mine ride and many other attractions at Knott's Berry Farm, had one in El Monte at I think it's called Five Corners or Four Corners. I might have that wrong. Anyway, but Bud told me, when he was with us, I was doing all these interviews for the Knott's book. He said, "Oh, gosh, I was at my kiddie park, and this fella." Comes up and he sits down on the bench and he starts looking and taking notes, and and he's by himself, right? He's like an adult by himself, and Bud's kind of going, "What's the deal?" And he's like, "I better go introduce myself." And he goes over and he's like, "Hi, I'm Bud Hurlbut." And he said, "Looks like you're interested in what we do here." And he goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Walt Disney." He goes, "Oh, I've heard of you." And so he's trying to learn the business. So Walt and Bud become friends. And so Bud actually comes over on some of the early 50s stuff at the studio to talk to him about, having, miniature donkeys there, or having, livestock there, or different sorts of rides and things that he can do. So that's fascinating. There's hundreds of examples of little stories and little vignettes and things like that, and little factoids that there just was not the room for it. And it was hard for me because I see this stuff and I'm like, oh, because some of these things some of these stories were easier to find than others, but some of these stories were really difficult to find. Archives has what I think is like the only interview with Bruce Bushman, who is famed for designing a lot of Fantasyland, but we actually came to find out he designed quite a lot of the vignettes on Main Street and quite a lot of Tomorrowland too. He and Herb Ryman designed a lot more of 55 Tomorrowland than they get credit for. But there's an interview with him. Now he's speaking in third person, which is weird, but it's his words, and he's describing his projects, and he's giving interesting information about certain aspects of these things. So much of that stuff. It's ridiculous.
Wow. So we'll get the multiple land volumes, the full encyclopedia of Disneyland going soon, right?
Probably not. This is the book. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's there is a segment of the audience that probably would love that, but I think for the general audience, for the 70th anniversary, I think we boiled it down to not just the essence, but we also dug into stories that are rarely told, like the Indian village, the Native Americans that were there. We wanted to write about things like that because a lot of people wave it off and say, oh, we can't talk about that. And when you actually dig into the history of that area or similar ones like it at the park, it's a terrific history. And there were a lot of Native American activists who were at the park working, explaining their culture to visitors there. Is it something we would do today? Probably not. You would probably say it, oh, it's a human zoo. We would never do that. It wasn't. It was a cultural exchange, exactly that you might see something exactly like it at a World's Fair. And I think those are the kinds of things that need to be explained, and to be able to shine a light on some of those things so you understand the history and meaning behind them, and not jump to kind of modern day conclusions about them.
Yeah, I thought it was wonderful because there's a whole aspect to that it didn't occur to me. And Don, I forget the name of the woman who kind of ended up being a Native American activist later, but she talks about, we were educating people of the 1950s about our cultures and traditions. And I think that's a very positive, beneficial thing, in an era where you've got basically racist tropes going on in, the popular vernacular and television shows. Instead of seeing Native Americans getting murdered, you're seeing people being taught about their culture and their history and their tradition. It's really wonderful to think that Walt was promoting that sort of a thing. So, I mean, things like that are great too. And this is maybe not the same, but even just, I'd forgotten I was going to mention, one of the things that Bob Gurr had said to us, he said, we said, well, Bob, like what's rare, what's unusual? And Bob said, he said, when I was drawing up the Autopia with Walt came to me one day and he said, now Bobby, because he called him Bobby, he said, now Bobby, some of these kids, they're not going to be big enough to be able to drive the Autopia cars. So he said, what I want you to do is, I said, wouldn't it be fun if some of these kids could get like on a bus, like on a Greyhound bus instead of an Autopia car? And so Bob said, oh, that's cute. So he drew up like a Greyhound bus, but instead of a Greyhound, he put a Dachshund on it because it's miniature, right?
Uh-huh.
And so Bob goes, if you could find that, I haven't seen that, since the 50s. So, Mike Jusko in the Imagineering Research Library found it. So it's in the book.
Wow.
Things like that are really charming to me.
And of course, the fact that Doritos were invented in Frontierland.
Yeah.
And you can get a taco in a ta cup, whatever that means. Yeah.
So I know we're getting close, but just have one, if I could ask one more question. So of course, through the research, right, doing the research of the book, you developed probably a deep understanding of Walt and the original vision, right, of Disneyland. So if Walt had continued guiding the park for another 20 years, how do you imagine Disneyland might look today, and in what ways might it differ from the version we know now?
I don't think we can answer that question. I don't think we'd know. I feel like, Don, tell me if you disagree, but like I feel like he was such a student of life, and he was innately curious about everything, is my sense of Walt Disney. And so you never knew what he was going to pick up on and what he was going to focus on and what was going to be appealing to him and what was going to resonate with him. So I don't think you could really answer that question, because who knows what would have resonated with him, and he would have come in, to WED and said, now guys, I saw this thing last night, or I read this thing, and we're going to try this. I don't know. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, it would be, of course, neither of us knew Walt Disney, and at best we knew people that worked with him, and I knew his daughter a bit, and but you can tell a curiosity is something Chris said that really defines him. And I asked Joe Grant once, Joe, who worked with Walt on and wrote Dumbo and Lady and the Tramp and things. He said he was a great actor. I think a closet actor, a closet film director, but a storyteller. And everything at Disneyland, what separates it from everything else is his ability and desire to use storytelling to entertain people. And so that was the biggest thing, is if one were to predict as kind of a fool's errand what Walt might do, is it would always be based on some sort of storytelling, immense curiosity, and being at the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of technology, because he always was. So if you can just take the patterns of his life, his curiosity, his interests, which were vast. It went from cartoons to animation to television to cities of the future. that kind of shows the span of one 65-year-old life is pretty amazing. So one can only imagine further years of Walt's life would have continued the same kind of patterns of that kind of curiosity. And certainly at the end of his life, he wanted to make people's lives better and use what he knew and what his brother knew about working with corporations to actually showcase that and do that. Disneyland was a kind of baby step in that direction, and certainly Florida and Epcot are his ideas for that were further development of that idea. But who knows? The other thing that was happening is the world was changing. When Walt passed, sadly, in '66, the Vietnam was happening. The entire planet was starting to change a little bit. We landed on the moon, and suddenly you could look back at the Earth, and so movements like green Earth movements and ecology and recycling and all those things became very important, which I think he might have loved. So, but he would have been part of the times. It's what was the marker of his life, and deeply immersed in storytelling. That's him now.
Well, we are about out of time here. Unless you guys are able to take a couple questions from the viewers, are you able to do that? Or
I can take a few. Yeah,
sure.
Okay. So, viewers, if you have a question for Don or Chris, throw it into the chat, and we'll have them answer a couple of them for you before they take
and
off.
I can see the chat. Are one of you going to read that to us, or should we just pick one that?
Well, if you want to pick one, just tell us which one you want to answer. We can do that.
So now's the time for your questions. Van Arsdale France Starry. No, I'm sorry. It would have been nice to talk about Van France. Van France, who famously started the Disney University. There's a whole book on Van France by Van France, which is fun. But no, for me, I mean, we do talk a little bit about some of the management, but not much. I mean, my main area of interest are with the designers and with Walt guiding the designers, because that's what I do. So I don't know what you think about that, Don, but I think we focused more on the art and the design once we got past the bulkhead of getting the park up and open and running.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but somebody like Van France was really instrumental in doing something really new, which was they were hiring kids off the street for Disneyland, and they couldn't just throw them into the park. It was like, why are you here? What story are you telling? How do you handle the public? And we hit on that in one chapter where we talk about the tour guides and the idea of, how do you handle the public and treat them well and make sure the place is clean and all those kind of details again. And Van and his kind of Disney University and their training, their onboarding, as we would call it today, of employees was something at the time that was pretty new.
Yeah, really revolutionary, actually. Just the idea that you don't call someone visiting, I don't know what you call them, but you call them a guest, right? They're a guest, like a guest in your home. And fellow employees are not employees, they're cast members. You're putting on a show. Just the idea of that is revolutionary. Yeah, we do. There were a few cool photos of both Dick Nunes and Van France setting up the Disney University and some motivational signs and things. So many photos we left out. Yeah, one of the questions coming in, what's the hardest part? Would you say picking what got to stay in the book versus left out? So things like that would be a good example. There are things that we lost that broke my heart, or even like Tomorrowland 67. Like I would have liked to have done another 20 pages on Tomorrowland 67, and I think we got 3 or 4 at the end of the book. But we spent a lot more time on 55 Tomorrowland at the beginning of the chapter. And at the end of the day, there's been a lot more ink spilled written about 67 Tomorrowland than there has 55 Tomorrowland. So I think it's good that we did that.
So we have another question. Chris, did Bud do any work for Walt Disney? And did he help work on
not officially that I'm aware of? In the interviews that I did with Bud, they had kind of a mutual admiration society going after, Walt visited him at the kiddie park in El Monte. And then very soon after, Bud ends up at Knott's Berry Farm doing little, he brings his Denzel carousel and some of these other small attractions. And then eventually works his way up to the Calico Mine Train and the log ride, which is amazing. But Bud did tell me like early on, because he did have people like, oh gosh, Bruce Bushman and the names are escaping me right now. I'm having a senior moment. But some of the other kiddie park people all came up for these design meetings. We'd call them charrettes today, but with Walt to give him ideas and just talk about how do you do things? How do you do a ride? How do you do a show? How do you do an attraction? And I don't think the words theme park really had been invented yet. So they're thinking of these things as amusement park attractions. And so Bud went up for some of those. And I remember Bud told me, he said, one of the times he was in one of the meetings and he had several of Walt's employees there. So I'm going to assume some of his WED guys. And Walt ended the meeting saying okay, well, this is what we talked about today. And I want you all to come back to the next meeting. He said, if you don't come back to the next meeting, each with a new idea, then don't come to the meeting. That was it. So things like that. I don't know. But Bud, to my mind, never actually worked for Walt in an official capacity. And Walt would go down to Knott's Berry Farm occasionally and look at some of the things Bud did. And then that's kind of my consensus is the idea of a hidden switchback queue. So if you've ever been in a line at an attraction and you're like, oh, the line's kind of short, I'm just going to get in the line. And then you go around the corner, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's an hour wait, like. Bud Hurlbut invented that with the Calico Mine Train, because that's the perfect example. So he told me, Walt was visiting, Walt was in Orange County for the day, called Bud up and said, hey, I've got like a half hour. Can I come see your new mine ride that you did? And Bud's sure. And they get in there and he goes, he said, Walt's saying, I only got like 15 minutes. I got to get back up to the studio. And so he goes, okay. And they get in, and then he turns the corner and he sees, switchback hell, hidden from all the guests. And he goes, you so-and-so, you tricked me with all this, And after that point, throughout the 60s, you start to see hidden switchback queues in Disney attractions. So there's kind of this mutual admiration society there. There's other stories I could tell, but there's another question. There's one for Don. Or a statement.
Well, it's just a comment. Actually, Mitch has eventually wanted to say that Carla and I love your PBS specials, Don. So I just want to.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. And here's hopefully an easy one for you guys. Is there any way that people can buy a purchase signed copy?
We're going to be around. If you look towards the month of kind of May, June, July, especially July when the 70th anniversary is, I think we have a signing day at Disneyland. We're also at Walt's Barn in July. I saw somebody ask that in the questions. I think we're there on the 20th, Sunday the 20th, at Walt's Barn in full costume. And we'll be there to sign books and I don't know what costume, but
I think you mentioned Pocahontas.
I think I don't know that we're signing, but I think we're doing a presser on May 14th at Downtown Disney.
Exactly, yeah.
And
so we'll be around. If you look at the kind of Disneyland sites and different things, we'll publicize
these
those.
things will be announced. There'll be a couple of opportunities for Southern California people to come to the parks or Walt's Barn and get us to sign it. So
yeah, hope so. We'd love to meet a lot of you guys. I mean, it's your questions and your comments are terrific. It's just fun looking through them.
Yeah, and I've also posted the link to Amazon. So if you guys want to pre-order the book without a signed autograph copy, you can do that as well. And then one last thing before Dawn and Chris take off is I wanted to share something I thought was kind of important. One of the things that Dawn had mentioned was that I think Chris came up with all the quotes, but you guys had all these quotes to put into the book. And
we came up with it. It took a village, sir. It wasn't just Don and I, and there were so many people who helped out with this. So it's not just
what I thought was. Oops, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I got my question up there, or what I was going to read. Sorry about that. But anyhow, so I just thought it was really neat because you guys have so many quotes. It's amazing how many quotes you have in here that go with the stories or with the pictures and whatnot. And the afterword kind of says it all. So I wanted to just read a little excerpt of that. And said, Walt said, "The park means a lot to me, and that's something that will never be finished, something that can keep developing, keep plussing and adding to. It's alive. It will be a live, breathing thing that will need changes." And the constant change meant that his audience would come back again and again to experience the marvels inside the berm. It was clean and orderly, nostalgic yet visionary, and mysteriously yet open to discovery. And unlike any other entertainment franchise, Disneyland had a sorcerer in residence who understood that our thirst for storytelling would always prevail. His belief was simple: we all have a child secreted in our hearts, deep in our common memory, that longs to be set free. That idea alone is a strength and lasting after effect of the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. So I thought that was a pretty neat way to end your book. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show today. We really appreciate you coming onto the show to share your experiences with writing this book. I obviously can't wait to get a hard copy of the book when it comes out. I think many of you are going to enjoy it as well. And before we let you go, any final thoughts, Don and Chris?
No, I appreciate you guys and all you do, not just today and tonight, but just every time you're on the air. It's terrific, and it's just, it kind of contributes to the ever-growing Disney fandom out there of people that are hungry for this, and to your listeners. We love you guys, and it's great that you're interested in all of this as much as we are, because it's an amazing, inspiring story.
We really appreciate the support from everyone who's interested in this and is promoting it and getting it out there, because it's something very near to our hearts, very near and dear to our hearts. I think Don and I both have these incredible early family memories of going there as kids. In fact, Don, I think you talk about putting out your lucky underwear the night before.
I did, and I would wear it to Disneyland, and then quite often for days afterwards, much to my mom's disappointment. It had been to Disneyland, and it was somewhat magical because of it. Yeah. I want to plug too, because Chris won't do this, but he has a new book coming out about a Knott's Berry Farm attraction, and the book is really great. If you're looking for a deep dive, granular look at design and theory of building attractions.
Thank you.
This book about a Knott's Berry Farm attraction that Chris can tell you about.
Knott's Berry Tales, which is this incredible dark ride that influenced me as much, that Rolly Crump designed when he left Disney in the early 70s. And he really helped Walter Knott's daughter, Marion, out, where she had a really difficult situation with a land that was kind of failing. And this is kind of the birth of the Roaring Twenties era. And there's an area at Knott's Berry Farm, and there's a lot more to it than just the ride. But the book's called Knott's Berry Tales, and there's so much Rolly. If you like Rolly Crump, there's so much Rolly Crump artwork in there that most people have never seen before. And it's kind of this amazing story how Rolly, when he left Disney, he gangs up with Ernie Ball of Ernie Ball guitar strings. So if any of you play guitars, like if you buy a package of Ernie Ball guitar strings, that's Rolly's art on the front, which Ernie paid him $5 to do, by the way. It's like this big corporate, logo. But anyway, but they start this little design studio called Design 27 in Newport Beach, and they hire all these 18, 19-year-old kids, and they teach them the business of entertainment design and theme park design. And all these kids, a lot of them work on Knott's Berry Tales ride, but they all kind of tentacle out into the industry. So people like Steve Kirk, who was the executive creative for Tokyo Disney Sea, Doris Young, who works for Steve Wynn, Susie McLean, who did beautiful graphics and design for WED later on. So all these people who kind of got their start, learned the business from Rolly. And then, of course, Rolly's son, Chris Crump, who worked on the ride and had a fabulous career at Walt Disney Imagineering and was my manager for many years there. He's kind of like my big brother. And yeah, so if you don't mind me pitching it, actually at the end of this month, on April 30th, and maybe you can put a link in the chat, I don't know, for the Breakfast Club, which is,
Yep.
Don, how would you describe the Breakfast Club? You described it better than I could.
Wow.
I'll put it in the private chat for you, Bob. But yeah.
You guys need to look this up. The Los Angeles Breakfast Club has been around for 100 years this year. Walt Disney was a member of the Los Angeles Breakfast Club. It's a 7 a.m. Ridiculously early gathering of anybody who wants to go have breakfast and listen to fascinating speakers from entertainment and politics and anything else. And it's crazy. It's the most zany group of people. They have secret handshakes. They have memberships. They have scrambled eggs. It's the best morning you will ever have at the LA Breakfast Club. So you must You must go immediately, or at least
Yeah.
when the breakfast.
So we're doing our Knott's Berry Tales Dog and Pony show where Eric Linksweiler and I are going to give a presentation, and we're going to have some of the actual original figures from the Berry Tales ride. And Chris Crump, Rolly's son, will be there, and he's actually getting inducted into the Breakfast Club, which is a big honor.
It's a crazy secretive ceremony that is really worth a story in itself. And it's time that we get off of here for you guys. But I have a new documentary on the Goofy movie on Disney Plus called Not Just the Goof. So if you're a fan of the Goofy movie, Not Just the Goof is on Disney Plus right now, and you'll be shocked and wowed by the story of that thing.
Oh, and you got to see Don's documentary on the Gamble House, and I mean that's like just beautiful, incredible architecture. If you're an architecture nerd, that's incredible.
Chris and I are out of control is really what it amounts to.
Yes.
Well, you know,
It's overrated apparently.
we actually have a show on Monday, and we're going to be talking about Chris's signing, and we'll talk about the Breakfast Club as well to promote that for you. And obviously, Don will definitely talk about the Goof movie, and we'll talk about some of the other things you're working on or have done, like the Howard documentary, which is amazing, by the way.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful!
It is, isn't it?
It's so moving, you know, and it's like I didn't know much about Howard Ashman, and obviously Don, you worked with him, but it just, you know, gosh, what an amazing, incredible talent. Gone too soon. Incredible.
He really was.
Yeah.
Well, as Chris Merritt knows, I could go on for 90 minutes. That's a joke between him and I.
Yes.
But, in fact, you signed it in my book, 90 minutes. Ha!
Yes.
So with that, we are going to let you go. Don, thank you so much for your time. Chris, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and hopefully we can have you again on in the near future.
Same here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, my daughter wants to say goodbye again, Don. So.
Oh, Ariel. Oh my God, you're such a screen hug. It's so good to see you, though. You're beautiful, and yeah, we'll talk.
Okay, we'll talk. All right. Bye, gentlemen.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was a pleasure to have all three, those two gentlemen on the show with all three of us. I've been looking forward to this for a long time because when I reached out to Chris to ask him if he could, be on the show with Don Hahn, he said, well, you got to go through Disney. And obviously you went through Disney. And I just want to say thank you to the people at Disney that I worked with because, they were a pleasure to work with. And it was great to bring them on the show, for all of you. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know that, we didn't get to answer a ton of questions, but we are limited on time with our guests and we did our best. But I hope we shared and they shared a lot of information that you guys didn't know about. And think about it. When this book comes out, there's so much you're going to learn. So definitely check it out. I will put the information in the chat again on where you can buy this book on Amazon. So there it is right there for you.
And we did get a link for the LA Breakfast Club. There is the link in the chat somewhere. I think it's like way up there now, but we did get the link in there. I'll drop it in again real quick here.
Okay, perfect. So Danny will drop that in there. So if you guys would like to check that out, I know that Danny and I are dying to go, but fortunately, I don't know that we can make it. I don't know if you can, Cordy, but it's really, really early in the morning, by the way.
I would do it, man. I have no problem getting up at 2 a.m. to get out there in time. I would, for this, I would do it in a heartbeat, but schedule's just really wacky that day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it really is. We have a lot going on. In fact, Danny and Courtney and I will be talking about what that day means to us in the near future here, maybe on the next podcast or the podcast after that. But we got a lot going on for that specific day. But with that, we still have more to cover. So I hope that you guys will hang with us and stay with us as we're going to talk about several other really cool news items. So first up, we want to talk about was Club 33 on the Disneyland app. Did you guys know this is a thing?
Yeah, I heard about that. Interesting. I'm not sure what to think of it. It's, the cynical side of me quickly goes to, are we having trouble getting members? So I don't know. That seems really odd that this is, as far as I know, the first time that they've had to basically, I mean, it's not even really promoting it, but it's putting it out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that seems really odd when all we've ever heard our entire lives is, oh, it's like a 10-year waiting list. You got to know somebody to get in there. You got to do this. You got to, jump through like the money. I don't understand why it would suddenly become this sort of a thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So what I'm showing you now is from the website, but this looks exactly how it does in the app. And you can actually scroll down. It'll tell you the benefits of Club 33 membership. There's frequently asked questions. Obviously, the most important one, how do I join Club 33? Well, right here, the membership interest form. You can click on that. It'll take you to this next page where you can actually fill out the form with all of your information and then submit it. And
it doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't ask for your net worth or anything like that. Yeah, it doesn't ask. It just, they're just compiling the list and starting to get, trying to get more people. And to me, that's just a signal that something's not quite where it should be for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe a lot of people, I know that the prices have gone up for Club 33 memberships. It's very, very expensive. I mean, obviously you got a lot of great extra perks, but you still have to, you don't get an annual pass that. You do get free tickets to go in the park, right? And you get to, skip lines and whatnot. You get a VIP tour, I think, throughout the year. So there are definitely some really cool perks, but it used to be, I think it was $130 a plate. Now it's $170 a plate since last time that.
Wow. Really?
Theme park casual night. Yeah, it's 170 now instead of 130. And that was just 2 years ago that it was 130 when Theme Park Casual and I went, which is cool. We actually got to take our wives with another couple, and we were celebrating our wives' birthday at Club 33, which was pretty sweet. It was actually a really fun, nice night, and we had a great time. And thank you again to our friends that took us, because that was an extra special night. But yeah, it's very expensive to go to. It's a once in a lifetime experience if you're able to go, or if you know someone. I definitely recommend it. But
make sure you've got a little stash of cash ready to go, because you're going to want to buy all the little merch and swag and stuff like that. And I had to completely restrain myself, and I still spent I think $600 on stuff. It was like, and that is like massive restraint.
Did you really? Because I don't remember spending that much that night.
It was total with dinner. So I spent
with dinner. Okay.
300 and something on this stuff.
Oops. Because I think I spent almost $900, and that was
he went. Yeah, Barry Place. Barry Place could go nuts. But.
Yeah.
Well, no. What are you talking about? It's not like I like extra stuff. Come on.
I was going to say extra merch.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy is they actually.
He actually asked them to put another 3.
Can I make it Club 333? Oh, that's hilarious. No, I would not do that. Actually, a couple of items I wanted, I couldn't get, so it probably would have been over $1,000 for sure.
Yeah. That's the other thing. They were out of stuff.
Yeah, they were out of stuff. The one thing about Club 33 is, as far as the merchandise goes, most of it is fairly reasonable price, or about what you would spend on the item inside the park. It's not like it's overly expensive because it's Club 33. What's ridiculous is the people that buy the stuff and then resell it, and which is a no-no, of course.
Right.
But yeah, it's actually pretty reasonably priced for most of the things. Like Spirit Jersey is the same price you'd pay inside the park. There's a couple things where I was like, oh, it's only like $20 or $40. Really? Seriously? I mean, that's
I got the ball cap, and it was only like, I think $35, which pay that for a Dodger hat. Give me 33.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of nice memorabilia stuff that I bought, and I'm so glad I did. And
I will say this though, for a vegetarian, it was high. I mean, the prices are high, obviously, but for a vegetarian plate, absolute highway robbery. It was insane. They set it down in front of Mrs. Casual, and she looked at it. I looked at it, and then I looked at her, and she just gave me the side eye of.
I saw that too.
And I was just like, it's for the experience. That's why we're here. But thanks to our friends, they knew to ask for something that was off the menu. So we got another a couple of plates of some fabulous mac and cheese.
Yeah. Oh, we did. That was amazing. It was no longer on the menu anymore, but they made it for us, and it actually was not that expensive. what was it? Was it $20 for the?
It was $15 for each one of the
15?
side dishes.
Oh, 15. Yeah, cheaper.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it was actually a nice sized dish.
yeah. I mean, you were
mac
able to
and
split
cheese,
it
and we got
between 2 or
two.
3 people at least.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was definitely worth it. And you know, my wife and I were drinkers, so we had at least one drink there, and it was really good. I love old fashioned, so they made a pretty good one. But just the atmosphere and being there. The hardest thing is you're not allowed to take video of anything, and so it was hard. You know, you can take some photos, but you can't take it inside the dining room unless it's just of your party. You can't, you know, film anything else. No video whatsoever. So it was always nerve wracking because I know a couple times my wife was like, "I want to do a video." I'm like, "No, you can't do a video. We're just doing photos here." And it was great, especially because we got to go out on the balcony at the very end of the night, right above Pirates of the Caribbean and
overlook all the plebs.
Yeah. It was like
You got to be the snooty people for a few minutes.
like, who are those people? Are they famous? Do they have a plaid with them?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was a great experience. And you know what's crazy is that it was the day after I started my very first live stream with Berry Place 28, and it was a grand opening of Toontown. So it was March 19th of 2023. So it was quite the experience, and it was really, really cool. And I'm really glad we got to experience it. And I hope all of you who haven't experienced it will get the opportunity to experience it one of these days. So I might have another in soon because I have.
I was going to say I'm working an angle as well. So.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I got a possible angle where I might be able to go to Club 33 again. So, Cordy, where's your angle?
I'll just open the door. I'll climb up.
We're gonna tie the tablecloths together and lower it down. Just get in, come on, we'll lift you up.
Too funny. Oh boy. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about our next topic. And we have not done construction.
While we were still doing the interview, we did get a gifted membership from Mr. Slim Devin.
Slim Devin
was gifted to Alan Smithy.
Oh, nice.
And Fire Dragon 57 gifted 10 memberships.
Slim Devin and Fire Dragon 57, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Illist Trillion, Jessica Martinez, the Dutch Disney Lover, Brienne B, and Chris Chavez. I know there's more.
Jason Ricky, Jason Thibodeau,
Edge of the Ocean.
And Doom Boogie.
And here we go.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, Fire Dragon. Thank you, Slim Devin.
Yeah, thank you, Slim Devin and Fire Dragon 57. Really appreciate it. It's awesome. So
that's right, members. Get those flags in the chat to say thank you.
I love it. I love seeing them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And by the way, if you guys happen to be in the park, please come by and say hi to Danny, Cordy, and I. Whether we're together as park streamers or just streaming on our own, it's a pleasure to meet you guys. And
I got to meet a couple of people just the other day doing the Tiki Room. Got to meet RJ Leal and
nice.
Rebecca. I can't remember her last name. I'm terrible at names. So, but I did get to meet
the other person you met.
What's that?
The other person you met.
Well, I am the worst at names. I'm telling you. And then
I am too.
I'm even worse when it comes to faces. So if somebody comes up to me, it's like, and they're talking to me, I'm like, oh dear God, I've probably met them and I can't remember where I met them. And I'm just, so please, if that happens to you, please understand. I've got people that I work parking lot with at church. It takes me like 3 months before I actually know their name. I'm horrible at this.
Becca Kenley? Karen is asking.
I don't think that's who it was.
Okay. But thank you for saying hi to whoever said
that. I do. Yeah, I love it when you guys say hi. It's so much fun, and it's never an interruption. Even during March Madness and we're on our way to something or whatever, it is never an interruption.
And I got to see Fire Dragon 57 again, and I got to meet her daughter, which was amazing. She had a birthday this past weekend, so happy birthday, belated birthday to her daughter. It was great. So anytime you guys want to say hi, and if you don't want to be on camera, just let us know. We won't put you on camera. But I just think it's awesome when we can actually say hi, meet you in the parks. It's really, really cool. So, and by the way, to all of you, thank you so much for supporting not only Park Streamers Hangout, but our individual channels as well. So, all right. With that, are we ready to go on to our next thing here?
I
So
think so.
we haven't talked about construction updates or anything like that for a while. So I thought I'd bring this up. And I thought we'd start with Downtown Disney because we're always starting with, Disneyland and whatnot. And I'll bring that up in a moment. But if you guys ever want to check out where the, permits are that I'm bringing up here, by the way, you can always find them on Anaheim Next. Website, you go to planning. Actually, sorry, I can't go back because if I go back, then I'll lose my page here. But basically, you just go to the permits page, and then you click on building, and you'll be able to come to this page. You type in the address you want. So for Downtown Disney, it's 1580 Disneyland Drive. You plop that in, and it'll give you this little update right here. So we actually have a signed permit to install a non-illuminated interior blade sign. This is a little while back on 314. There was a tenant improvement here to demolish and dismissing wall and combine units 107 and 108 and construct new partitions, point of sales counters, new storefront, and rooftop equipment screening, mechanical, electrical, plumbing for a new kitchen and rooftop equipment. So that was completed, obviously. Doesn't look like we have anything here. You know what? Actually, the permit that I wanted to show you guys is not here, so I'll have to look it up again. But there's a new permit out to actually demolish Earl of Sandwich and to take away 2 of the ticket booths.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard about that.
So that they can actually build the new Portos. Let me go ahead and plop
Is
it in.
Porto's going to take up that much space, or are they just clearing out those things at the same time?
I did not think they were taking up that much space. So one of the rumors I heard was that they were actually going to demolish 2 of those ticket booths because they just don't need that, and
Right.
they might put something else in that area because they're just not using the ticket booths like they used to. In fact, they're not hardly using them at all. And then, of course, over at Disneyland, these are some of the things that have been issued or plan review or closed. So I'll let you know what those are. But Smuggler's Run has a tenant improvement that was issued, but doesn't say what exactly they're going to be improving. We also have a plan review for the parade building to do tenant improvements and install temporary truss on the roof structures to support curtains, which is interesting. And that's
Trish, real quick, the Earl of Sandwich, that's going in the new section over by where the bands play. They've got another building that they're doing for Earl of Sandwich that it's going to be their permanent home. They also have the little like food truck style trailer location over around the corner from the Star Wars shop down back behind where the bands play.
Yep. We also have a plan revision from 411 for administrative building, and they're going to do tenant improvements. There's going to be 3,298 square feet to reconfigure restrooms, break rooms, conference rooms, and custodial closets throughout all levels. Modifications to existing costuming issue booths, and then stairs and railings, et cetera, et cetera. So they're doing a whole thing on the administrative buildings over there where the employees are. And then there's also a planned review for a revision, and this is for the Disneyland Resort overall electrical new GFI receptacles. So it looks like they're going to be replacing all of the electrical in Disneyland resorts. So that's interesting. And then, what's that?
I said,
Oh, I thought you were saying something else. Sorry. And then let's see. We have another plan review for a building permit on 410. This was for the Disneyland Railroad Station. It's just miscellaneous. They're going to install decorative new show elements, which I'm assuming is for the 70th anniversary that's going to be coming out. So that'll be cool. On 47, they actually closed the plan revision for the Matterhorn bobsleds, and they did tenant improvements to replace and install new cameras and illuminators. modify existing rock work and install new rock work and install new fall protection with electrical. So that's already been completed and that's done. Last couple things we have here were the plan revision was approved for the Haunted Mansion. They're going to change, it's a change of use to convert existing break room to an electrical room. It's 970 square feet to demo existing ramp and construction interior stairs leading out to the train tracks and construct new walls for relocated opening out of the exit hall. Interesting, because I thought they already completed all that. Okay, that's interesting. And then last one that's closed that's recent was from 4-1, and that was Fantasyland. Tenant improvement, it's a 9 what is that? I can't remember that. It's a 9-inch. It looks like 9-inch foot, 9 something foot, and 4x8 foot high wall above existing 3 foot 10-inch wall, replacing existing stair and landing, and adding additional stairs with plumbing and electrical. So that's what's going on at the moment. It looks like they do, since Small World hasn't opened up real quick, they do have a plan revision for that as well. Where they're actually going to install a new 18 foot, I don't even know what that is right next to it. I can't read it. It's too small, but over 4 foot tall chain link fence gate inside of the attraction building and remove and replace interior wood stair with electrical. So they're doing a lot of work over there at It's a Small World at the moment. And I can't wait for that ride to open up. But we only have, one more week before it opens up, I think?
I think they pushed it out.
They pushed it
I thought
out
there was just
They
something.
pushed it out again?
May 9th.
Oh, well, don't listen to what I just said. It's May 9th. All right.
Yeah.
And then, hey, we have something new to talk about that happened just last week. It was the day after our Park Streamers Hangout, and they announced this little thing. Let me bring it up real quick. We got to find it there. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let me go to share screen and oh, it disappeared on me. Where'd it go? Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm going to close a couple things out here because I've got too many things open at the moment. We'll close that and we'll close this.
All right. Well, we got a second. I've got to say, Jetta, how dare you ask that question of our guests earlier?
What was the question?
I'm really glad they didn't comment on it, or hopefully didn't even see it. She asked, Christopher and Don, would you do Tiki Room all day?
Jetta, come on. What were you thinking? Oh, jeez. Hey, at least you didn't ask about the naked guy in Tiana's palace. There we go.
Yeah,
Oh gosh. I can't believe no one was there. I was like, not one content creator was there.
I was at the Tiki Room, so it wasn't me.
Got it.
There is proof that it was not me. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm.
But you know,
glad.
it's funny. You didn't. Not that you want to see it, but it's kind of funny that you're like, oh, well, I missed out on that again. Something happened.
That's what I mean. Like, you don't really want it, but it's just I just thought it was
You don't really want it, but then I mean,
you
it's
get this
there.
filming of some, person.
All right.
Wait a minute.
I think we're gonna talk about that later, Fire Dragon 57. So I just wanted to let you know.
All right.
We have a few words.
They did announce that a world-class Universal theme park and resort is planned for the UK in Bedford, UK. All right. So this is the location here that you can actually see where the park is going to be. You can see that there's a lot of room for expansion in this area because it's only the yellow area. This over here is a conceptual artist rendering, but I'm going to bring up another tab, and that's this one. So this is conceptual artist rendering, and it's really interesting because a lot of people have dug in to see what they're doing. Obviously, Universal hasn't announced a whole lot about this park, other than it's going to be coming out in 2031. which will be pretty amazing. But I just wanted to call out a couple things that I've noticed, as well as some of my friends have noticed, and we can kind of talk about this. So one of the first things you kind of notice is this. It almost looks like a Waterworld show, but apparently the rumor is they're going to be putting in a James Bond stunt show in this
That
area.
makes more sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. It does. It does. The other thing is this area right here. This obviously looks like Jurassic Park. So they are going to have a Jurassic Park ride. And so now I'm hoping, who knows,
Jurassic Park.
Right, exactly. What's a park without Jurassic Park? Well, it could be Jurassic World. Well, one of the rumors is that they could be bringing the same one they have over in, is it Singapore? I think it is. That same type of ride attraction over here to this one. So that would be really interesting if they did that. Yeah. I think that would be really, really cool. The other thing was this roller coaster right here. So now everyone's like, oh, is it Fast and the Furious? But Fast and the Furious, is not as popular overseas as it is over here. But this is rumored to be the Back to the Future roller coaster. And it's gonna have a switchback, and supposedly it goes to 88 miles per hour. So think about it. If you have Knott's Berry Farm and you've got Accelerator, and Accelerator goes 80 miles per hour?
82. 82 or 83.
82 miles per hour. And it goes up, about, I think
About
it's not quite
feet.
300 feet. Is it?
It's close to 300
Is it really?
feet.
No. Okay.
It's about there, somewhere in there.
About there. Yeah. I don't think it's quite, it's going to have to be taller than what the Accelerator is. So it's going to have to be a pretty tall switchback. But it looks like a pretty cool coaster. And I think that would be a really neat ride to experience, obviously. And then, of course, it looks like we have a hotel that's in this area right here. And it looks like it's kind of like the old style, era days of the hotel. And then, of course, you got the entrance over here. When I was on the T3PO show earlier with Lou, he said he thought this looked like the Twosome restaurants. I don't know if they're going to put that in there. It hasn't been announced, but he just thought it looked like that.
We're so far off. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. This whole area right here, where it has like the purple awnings and everything. Well, this kind of looks like the Minions. So we're assuming this might be the Minions area, and this area kind of looks like almost like the what's the pet movie they have?
Secret Life of Pets.
Secret Life of Pets. Yeah, Secret Life of Pets. So that might be in this area right here. I'm not sure what this green coaster is yet. I haven't heard anything. Have you guys heard any rumors about what the green coaster is supposed to be?
No.
It almost looks like the Incredible Hulk coaster, but I have no idea. I'm not sure what these areas or buildings are going to be yet either. But the one thing I am excited about, and I can't remember what this was supposed to be. I forget what this was. Hey, it's Bug's Life. Just kidding. One of my favorite parts would be this area. If it's true, this looks like to be Amityville with the way the buildings are and the water. So there's rumored to have a Jaws attraction in this area. And that would be kind of cool if they did that. I think that would be awesome, especially since this is on the waterfront right here. It kind of makes sense, having the Jaws in this area. But yeah, that would be kind of cool. So there's obviously a lot of speculation as to, what's going to be here and what they're going to put in. But Universal's really starting to, invest in the company. Well, I should say Comcast, because Comcast owns Universal, but they're really starting to invest. I mean, obviously they've got the UK park, Epic Universe getting ready to open. You got the other two Universal Kiddie parks, one that's opening up in Texas, and I can't remember where the other one is. But they're definitely trying to grow and expand. Even here at Universal Studios Hollywood, they're expanding the Harry Potter land to the lower lots. That's why they got rid of the tram ride with Fast and the Furious. Obviously, they got the Fast and the Furious roller coaster coming in, which looks pretty amazing, and I can't actually wait to ride that. I'm not a huge Fast and the Furious fan, but I think that looks pretty darn amazing. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of great things. I mean, what are you guys looking forward to out of this park here in Bedford? Anything?
I have not even really looked into it, but and honestly, it's wonderful they're getting a park, but I doubt there's any chance that I'll ever be going there. You know, that's just one of the unfortunate things. I mean, I just don't see myself traveling to England anytime soon. So, I mean, if I'm going to make a trip to Europe, maybe, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I love looking at it, and it's fine, but I know it's one of those things where it's like I probably never get to experience it. So.
I'm telling you right now, if I ever hit the lottery, I am going to a bunch of theme parks around Europe and the United States.
I thought he was going to say, well, actually, I have a trip booked.
I got my trip planned for 2031 already. Too funny. Yeah. So
I'll be happy if I could get to Epic in the next 5 years.
Oh, that's on my list. Yeah, that's like move to the top of the list.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're kind of towards the end of our show here. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. In the meantime, I want to just run by a couple things with you guys real quick. So let me go ahead and bring those up while you guys are throwing your questions into the chat. So first of all, I wanted to let you guys know that we are really excited to be doing the Chalk Walk again this year. And our team so far has brought in $9,085. We are so close to hitting our $14,000 goal. We are literally under $5,000 left for that. Obviously, we want to beat our goal from last year. That's why we put 14,001, because we hit 14,000 last year, but we are going to try to raise as much money as we can. And I just want to say thank you so much to all the people who've been donating to all of our participants. For myself, Theme Park Casual, Accordion California, CL, we have the Jungle Skipper, I Got Nothing, Slim Devin Adventures, Live and Dead Fam, David Diaz, Goofy Guys Adventures, Miss Anime Games, Chrissy PH Disney, Jen's Crochet, and Donnyland, of course, Michelle D. Nicola, Heather Jung, Rob Ola, George Ray, Lynn Ray, Jennifer Raymer. Thank you so much, you guys, for being a part of our team, and to everyone who's been donating to our Chalk Walk. I just want to say thank you. It's been amazing. We actually have a Chalk Walk event that we're going to be going to here actually in the next week, and we can't wait to show it to you guys and tell you all about it. Should we talk about the live stream at all, or should we hold off? Well, I guess I just mentioned it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of told me. But we've been invited to the Chalk Walk in the Park kickoff event at the Anaheim Hotel on April 30th. Me, Bob, and Cordy will be there. I will have Mrs. Casual, since she is the impetus for all of this that has happened with the Chalk Walk. She's the one who gave me the suggestion to do something like this and invite Bob and Cordy to do it with us, and it turned into what you guys are seeing now with nearly $10,000 raised, and we still have months before we actually take a step into the park for the walk. So we're going to go and check out what they have. We're going to get to see the new design for this year, hopefully get to meet the artist. And they did say we could live stream it. From what I understand, it's kind of a presentation thing. It's not going to be, a whole bunch of hoopla, I don't think, but it's still going to be fun. We're going to live stream it. So if you guys want to catch some of the early information on Chalk Walk, be sure to tune in that day. We'll be on the Park Streamers Hangout channel. And we're going to try to make it as fun as possible. We're going to try to get you guys to see everything that they have there that evening. So hopefully you guys will be able to at least stop in and say hello. It's always good for us to show Chalk that what we're doing is making an impact out there, that we are spreading the word and helping to get their cause in front of more people. So the more views we have, the better it is, that we can make a case that, hey, we're basically media. Why not give us some media access?
Yes.
Hey,
and
there you go.
But we do want to have a good showing. So if you're able to just, even like I said, just pop in for just a few minutes and say hi in the chat for us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And then I want to let you guys know we are going to have another guest on our show this coming Monday. So let me share this with you. Phineas Huckleberry, he goes by Evan, but he also goes by Phineas.
Evan, his name is Evan, but he goes by Phineas Huckleberry.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't think
Bob.
his name is really Phineas Huckleberry.
Darn it.
Just a guess, but
So Evan, actually, he's going to be an amazing guest on our show. Can't wait to have him. We are going to bring him on because he actually runs the Fantasy Fun Wheel website where you can buy the actual Knott's Berry Tales book. He also is responsible for doing some amazing artwork. If you haven't been to Knott's Berry Farm, or if you have, and you've gone to where they actually have all of the artwork on display, he actually created this year. He did one similar to it last year, and it's already been sold. It was really cool because while he was there at the book signing for the Knott's Berry Tales book a couple weeks ago on Sunday, the people who actually bought it were there and didn't know that that he was there as well. So I introduced them to Evan, and they got to talk to the artists whose artwork they bought, and they thought it was pretty cool. He also, let me show you real quick. He also has refurbished a lot of the different, or some of the different things for the Knott's Berry Tale ride. So like the frog here, and he will be at the book signing that they were talking about tonight. So if you haven't seen it on Instagram, here it is under Phineas Huckleberry. It talks about the Knott's Berry Tales book signing. It's going to be on May 4th. It's going to be with Chris Merritt, who's on our show tonight. It's also going to be with Eric Linksweiler. They're the authors. Albert Rodriguez is going to be there. I think Devin Merritt, who is Chris's son, is going to be there. But we also have Chris Crump and Eddie Soto of Wacky Soapbox Racers fame and other things, of course. So they are going to be there. So if you want to buy a copy of the book, I would suggest you go there. It's cool. You can use your Knott's Pass if you have one to get a discount on the book, and then you can have it signed by all of these, amazing, people. I already have, I have like 5 books I already have to take back and have signed again because Chris and Eddie were not there, but I definitely want to get, Chris's signature on the books. But it's going to be really cool. So I hope you guys.
I can't wait. I am definitely doing everything I can to be there on May 4th.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's crazy because I was going to do a live stream at Disneyland and pretty much go from like not maybe rope drop, but early to mid morning, all the way until closing because it's a Star Wars event that night that I'm going to. So I was going to do Disneyland and then do the Star Wars night, and it was going to be kind of a crazy fun day. And now I'm like, oh, I got to go to Knott's Berry Farm first between 12 and 2, and get this these books signed, and then I got to go to Disneyland. So some time later that afternoon, I'll be starting my live stream and going until about 1 a.m. So I hope you guys will definitely join me for that one. But I hope you guys, if you live close by, or if you want to get a copy of this book, this is a great time to do it. Or as they mentioned earlier, and let me see if I can bring it up again. Where did that go? Oh, there it is. I hope that you guys can go to this. It's a LA
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, LA Breakfast Club. Thank you. Prevents the Knott's Berry Tales, the history of Knott's beloved attractions. So you can go there. It's early morning, but you can get a copy of this book signed by all the authors. And it's going to be a special morning because obviously you heard that they're going to induct Chris Crump, but also, there's a whole breakfast. It's like a secret society there. It's kind of crazy and cool. And they're going to be telling a lot of stories and doing the book signing. So this is something that's really, really cool. You can get an early bird discount if you do it before, let's see, get $2 off your ticket before April 26th. So that's this coming Saturday. And let's see.
Yeah, if you can make it to this event, you'd probably, there's no doubt you would enjoy it. This just sounds amazing. I'm a breakfast guy though, and I love getting up early. This is like right in my wheelhouse. Unfortunately, like I said, with the schedule on that day, it's just not possible for me to make it.
No, and actually I misspoke. It's actually not this Saturday. It's the following Saturday. I'm really ahead of time here. It's tax day, everyone. You haven't done your taxes. Quick. Do it before you can't, or do it before you get in trouble. There you go.
Yeah, I would love to go to this, but
yes, it's $35 for tickets. And if you want to sponsor a speaker, it's $35 as well. But yeah, it's a really good event. If you can make it, I would definitely try to make it. I just don't know that I'm going to be able to. So, all right. With that, what questions do we have in the chat for us tonight?
I just want to say thank you to everybody that hung out with me during the Tiki Room Marathon. That was absolutely one of my favorite days that I've spent at Disney. What's that?
Sorry, we didn't even talk about that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, no worries. But it was so much fun. Everybody kept thinking, oh my God, is that song getting stuck in your head? Are you going to be dreaming of the song? Are you going to be dreaming of Tiki? That song is always in my head. It's not new to have that song just kind of randomly show up at any time of day for me. So, and I'll tell you what, it was one of the easiest things up until about 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, I would go into the room and I'd be getting a little tired.
Was it Gimbal doing this?
No, I would set the gimbal down, but there was one point where I was like, yeah, I better hold the gimbal just to stay awake, just so that I'm, paying attention to something. Otherwise, I was starting to do that thing like, it's like, well, I'll just close my left eye. Don't do that, kind of thing. But it was so much fun. And, I was bummed that they took the stream down 3 different times. I don't understand what was going on with that, but it was a blast. I had so much fun doing it. It was, I think I mentioned it. At one point, I was like, I could totally come back and do this again tomorrow, another 16 hours of Tiki Room. I could totally do it. It was that much fun.
Well, what was funny to me is that I went the next day. I really wanted to be there to support you and show up, like some of the others, streamers and support, did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't, and you guys know why. But at the same time, when I was there the next day, and Corey, you probably got the same thing. Everyone's like, "So you're going to do it again, right?" I'm like, "No, like, you're not going to go back and do it again." No, they were so used to watching you on Saturday that they kind of thought, "Well, it'd be fun if Bob goes back in there." No,
we did
Bob's
do
not going back in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard you did Sweeper Tiki.
Yeah. But I wanted to. I was like, I want to go.
Yeah, it was fun. The first three shows of the day, they were private shows for just me and my chat. And I think it was the second one, the cast member said, "Welcome back to the Tiki Room." Yes, and the merch, we did the special Tiki Room casual design, available only that day. It ended up that it was available the next day for quite some time because I didn't have chance to go and close, because I literally got home at like a little after 2 a.m., got into bed at 2:30, had to be up by 5:30 to get to church on time, and I just didn't have a chance to take it off the store, so it was there for a few extra hours. But I promised that it was the proceeds would go to our Chalk Walk campaign, and I seriously, guys, I thought it was gonna maybe make $30 at the most. We were going to sell 10, 15 shirts. We sold over 50 shirts of just the Tiki Room casual, and plus people were bought a few of the casualty shirts. There were several of the theme park tomato shirts sold. So all in all, $140 is being donated just from the merch sales from that one day. So thank you guys so much. That blew me away. I was not expecting that kind of response from you guys. And you guys know, nothing makes me happier than knowing that somebody out in the world is wearing a theme park tomato shirt somewhere. So Mattercam bought a tomato shirt too. You guys, I have to thank Mrs. Casual #1 for driving the tomato thing nuts on that evening, because she was one of the instigators of that whole night. And then Haunted Mermaid for saying that she would buy a shirt with that logo. And look what's happened. You guys have, have me questioning my sanity as well as yours.
Speaking of sanity, Weird Little Man said, "I thought I would be worried about your sanity, Danny. but wound up worrying about mine.
Yeah, we actually had there were a few people that were there basically with me. Rope drop to close. Mattercam Matt was one of them. He like stepped away for a little while to go get some lunch or something, and so. But yeah, it was an
That's
amazing day. It was an amazing day. I was blown away from so many different things. It was just a crazy cool day. And then to top it off with the subscriber count flying all the way past 6,000 subscribers without
It was crazy.
I didn't even know what was going on. I messaged my mods I think at like noon or 1 o'clock saying, hey, we're getting some subs. This is great. And by the end of the night, I'm messaging Bob and Cordy saying, I have no idea what's going on. This is crazy. I don't think this is right. There's some shenanigans going on somewhere. And it just didn't stop until yesterday evening when the subscriber count finally, slowed to a stop. But yeah, it was well over 1,000 subscribers in the course of 2.5 days. It was insane. So thank you, everyone. It was a whirlwind weekend that I will cherish forever. So
Congrats on hitting 6,000 when you hadn't planned on it.
I know, it was crazy.
I think you should take a bow.
Yeah.
Actually, Slim Devin brought me a chicken and a pork bow.
Oh, not the barbecue bow?
Nope, not that one.
That's too funny. Well, it was an awesome weekend. I had a blast too, and then I hit 7,000 on Sunday.
I
hit
know.
6,000 yesterday. It was like, wow, what the heck is going on?
We hit 600 on Park Streamers.
Yeah.
Park Streamers. Pete
Yeah.
McDevitt. He was promoting us and said, "Hey, come on, guys, we could get them the last few subscribers." Pushed us over 600.
Awesome.
So yeah, just crazy weekend for us, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What questions do we have to go on here?
I don't know. Well,
Oh,
Take a bow. I didn't share with you guys, and maybe I'll share it on Monday. But Daryl actually sent me. He actually created a meme character. It's like my own action figure as Barry Place 28. It's kind of fun.
oh, nice. Yeah, I've seen everybody doing that where they do the like create me as a toy or something like that.
yeah.
And some of them look really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that out. So, John Shipley, sorry, says Tiki Room will never be the same.
And I've got a few different. I got a few different shirts that I've already got in my head that are going to be on their way soon. So, and I think I may have one for Bob that will go on his merch store.
Ooh.
Leaps and bounds.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Where do we start? Okie dokie. Hey, by the way, congrats to Mitch. He said he got 5 new subs and 4,000 views. Good job, Mitch.
Nice.
Murder Beaver logo. We already have that. Murder Beaver.
Murder Beaver.
Yeah, I need to get some stuff designed for merch though. So yeah, that one I think I'm hoping that we will have Murder Beaver merch in time for Father's Day gifts.
Wow.
Because what dad doesn't love a murder beaver?
Can we get a gong? Weren't we talking about
Yeah.
we need a gong every time you take a bow? Dong.
Oh boy. Let me see. Is there a gong here? All right. Any other questions for us in the chat?
No, any
If not,
questions?
Yeah.
Question?
I guess not. Okay.
They're saving them for Monday.
Yeah.
Save them for Monday. Yeah. So
Yeah,
again,
Murder Beaver, we're all excited,
yes.
and we're glad that you've joined our chats.
All right. Well, we are going to have another amazing show for you on Monday. Thank you on behalf of all of us for joining us for this amazing show that we had today. I hope you guys enjoyed having Don Hahn and Chris Merritt on our show today. It was a pleasure and honor, and I hope that this will open up some doors for other guests to come onto our show later this year. We are planning more and more guests as we can get them on our show. So thank you for doing that. And we will be reaching out to other streamers and friends of ours who, hopefully will be on our show soon, so we can add them as guests and talk about all of the latest and greatest theme park news and stuff. But before we go, let's go ahead and talk to everyone and find out, tell us where everyone can find you, Cordy, and when you're going to be streaming next.
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. And right now, it's looking like I have Sunday.
All right, cool. And Theme Park Casual.
You can find me on YouTube, X, and Instagram, all of them at Theme Park Casual, and I will be live tomorrow night at the park.
Very cool. And everyone, you can find me at Barry Place 28 on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. I will be streaming tomorrow during the day and early afternoon with my dad at the park. And then I'll be back on Thursday night for some fun at the park. So Sunday, I am actually taking Easter off, so I won't be there like I have been on Sundays. So I'm going to be spending some quality time with the family. But I hope you guys will come hang out with all three of us while we're streaming this week. It's going to be a blast. And just want to say thank you again for being here, for joining us, for all of your support, for the memberships, for the super chats you've given us, and of course, for all the Chalk Walk donations that you guys have been donating to this Park Streamers team. We really do appreciate it. So with that, we hope you guys have a great night. You guys take care, and we will see you on Monday for the next Park Streamers Hangout. And there's Ariel saying good night. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, guys.